Hey guys, welcome back. Today is day 51 and we are going to learn the properties of exponents. So we're going to start with our first property called the product of powers property. And what that means is if you multiply and you have the same base, let's start out with a little background first. Okay, in this example, if we have the number 3 and we put it to the second power, the base is that big number 3. And the power or the exponent is the 2. So in this case, 3 squared would be 3 times 3 because we're showing repeated multiplication, and that would be equal to 9. Okay, so it's not only going to work with numbers as the base, but you could have an exponent. If you had, say, x squared, that's the same as x times x. Okay, and we're going to learn properties that are associated with these exponents. So the first one we're going to learn is when you have the same base and you multiply and they have the same base in two exponents, the rule is that you're going to add the exponents together. So this would be 4 cubed times 4 squared would be 4 to the 3 plus 2 power, which would be 4 to the 5th power. Okay, and that would be equal to 1,024. You can use your calculator to say 4 to the 5th power. If you had variables here, this would be a to the m plus n power. All right, you would take the two and you would add them together. So to multiply powers with the same base, you simply add the exponents. Okay, and again, that's important that they have the same base. Okay, so in the first example, we have 2 to the 3rd times 2 squared would just be 2 to the 5th. Use your calculator, evaluate 2 to the 5th, and you can get 32. Okay, what you have to be careful with number 2 is 3 times 3 squared. There's really a 1 here because 3 is really the same as 3 to the 1 power. Now we have the same base 3, and this would be 1 plus 2 is 3. So 3 cubed would be 27. All right. Number 3, our base is -2. Now this is important that you keep that -2 in parentheses. Now we have the same base. We add the exponent, so it's going to be -2 to the 5th power. And when we evaluate that on our calculator, we get -32 as an answer. Okay, whoops, there's a negative in there. All right, with variables, here our base is x, and we would take 4 plus 5, and we would get x to the 9th power. Okay, number 5, we've got the base of 1, and this would be 1 to the 9th power. When we evaluate that, that would just be equal to 1 because 1 times 1 is 1, times 1 is 1, times 1 is 1. Don't make the mistake of thinking that 1 to the 9th power is 9. It is 1. Okay, number 6, we've got 3 squared and 3 to the 1st, so we add the two exponents together. We get 3 cubed, and again, we get 27. We had a similar example just a few ago. All right, if I take -4, now look, it works with negative exponents too. So if I take -4, since that's the base, and we take it squared into the -2, 2 plus a -2 is actually 0. But anything to the 0 power is actually equal to 1. All right, number 8, when we look at number 8, we've got 2 is our base, and -3 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. All right, when we're multiplying 3, in this case, we have the same base. 2 plus 6 is 8, plus 3 is 11. All right, number 10, our base is -x, okay? And 4 plus a -3 is just 1. All right, -x to the 1st power is just going to be equal to a -x. All right, and number 11, when we take 0 to the 0 power, okay, in this case, anything 0 to the 0 power is undefined, although there is a little bit of it. It's typically known as undefined. In Desmos, if you put in 0 to the 0 power, you may get a 1 because anything to the 0 power is 1. So undefined or 1 is fine right here. And number 12, this would be our base is 0, our exponent is 11, and 0 to the 11th power is actually equal to 0. Okay, so the next power, we're going to actually take a power to a power. All right, so the last one we actually were taking the products, we're multiplying, so we added the bases. Now when we do a power to a power, we actually multiply. So this would be 4 to the 6th power in this example, and that would be equal to 4,096. All right, so in this case, it would be a to the m times n. We're just multiplying when we have that same base. So it's going to be important that you look at where the parentheses are. All right, so to find the power of a power with the same base, you're going to multiply the exponents. All right, so when I look at number 13, I've got my 2 is going to be to the 3 times 2, so 2 to the 6th, which is 64. I'm going to go through this kind of fast. The base here is 3 to the 6th, because we multiply 2 times 3. We're going to get 729. Negative 2 is going to be to the, notice it's in parentheses, so negative 2 is going to be to the 6th power, and that's going to be 64. Now that's going to be different than the next one. Well, we'll do it in a little bit. But if we look at number 16, notice the negative 1 is in parentheses. That's going to be to the 6th power, so that's going to be a positive 1, all right? Any negative to an even exponent is going to end up being positive. X is going to be to the 28th, because 7 times 4 is 28. And notice my negative is on the outside of the parentheses here. So in the parentheses, we just have an x, and that's going to be to the 6th power. And then we're going to take the negative of that. So it's going to be negative x to the 6th power. All right. Number 19, n is going to be to the negative 8 power. And we're going to learn a little bit this class, or actually a couple of classes. A negative exponent is actually going to be the same as the reciprocal, and we make it positive. So that's the same as a fraction here, 1 over n to the 8th. Okay, so we'll be talking a little bit about that, but you never want to have a negative exponent in your final answer. All right, number 20, we've got negative 2, and that's going to be to the positive 6th power again. So we've got a 64. All right. So that's going to be 64. All right, and then your x here, because you're all raising to a power, this is going to be x to the 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24 power. All right, number 22, anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. All right, number 23, we're going to get a negative 2, and that's going to be to the 4th power, which is going to be 16. And then number 26, we're going to take 4 times 3 is 12 times 6 is 72. We're going to multiply all of them, so S is going to be to the 72 power. All right, so power of a power, so be careful where the parentheses are. All right, now we've got a power of a product property. So you're going to find the power of a product, you're going to find the power of each of the factors. So you're going to look at each of the factors in the parentheses, all right? So in the case of 25, one of the factors is 2. We're going to square that, and we're multiplying it by 3 squared. This would be equivalent to 4 times 9, which is 36, all right? So even if we did follow order of operations for number 25, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 squared is 36. All right, but 26, this is where we want to be careful. We're going to look at each factor. The first factor in the parentheses is a 2, and we're going to raise that to the 4th power. Our x is going to be to the 4th power, and our y is going to be to the 4th power. 2 to the 4th power is going to be equal to 16, so this is 16. You always want to evaluate out the coefficient, x to the 4th, y to the 4th. All right, 27, we're going to take negative 4, and we're going to square it, and x is going to be squared. So this would be 16x squared. All right, that's going to be different than 28. Now, number 28, notice my negative is on the outside of the parentheses. So that's kind of like saying a negative 1 times my 4 is going to be squared and my x is going to be squared, because those are the only factors inside the parentheses. So this is going to be a negative 1 times 16x squared, or negative 16x squared would be our final answer for 28. All right, looking at 29, okay, again, my negative is on the outside of the parentheses, so it's going to be a negative times 4 cubed, and it's going to be m cubed and n cubed. All right, this is going to be a negative 4 cubed is negative 64, m cubed, n cubed. All right, now this one, your 2 is a factor. That's going to be to the 3rd power. Now your x squared is to the 3rd power, so we're going back to a power to a power. So 2 times 3 is 6. So we get 2 cubed x to the 6th. 2 cubed is 8. 8x to the 6th. All right, here my factor is 3, so it's 3 to the 4th. My m is going to be to the 8th, because power to a power we multiply, and n is to the 4th. Okay, my 3 to the 4th is 81. It's going to be m to the 8th, n to the 4th. All right. I'm going to be careful here because this is like in parentheses, I've got like a -1 that's cubed. My 3, though, is going to be, notice it's inside the parentheses. We're squaring it and then taking it to the third. So it's going to be 3 to the 6th power, and my z is going to be to the 6th power. Okay, so -1 cubed is actually -1, or just negative. 3 to the 6th power is 729, and then we have our z to the 6th. All right, number 33, when we multiply this out, we've got 5, and it's going to be times 2 to the 4th, x to the 8th. Whoops, there's a times there. 2 to the 4th is 16, so 5 times 16, x to the 8th. It's a times. This is going to be 80, x to the 8th. All right, 34, this would be 9 squared x squared, or 81x squared. 35, we're going to take, see how the negative is inside the parentheses, but it's inside, not inside the innermost. So -1 for that negative is really raised to the 3rd power. And then we have a 2 that will be raised to the 6th power, and a z that will be raised to the 6th power. So when we multiply that out, we end up with a negative, and then 2 to the 6th is 64, z to the 6th. All right, with 36, we're going to look at our coefficients. We don't have any exponents outside the parentheses, so we're going to take -3 times 7 and get -21. X to the 4th times x squared, our rule is when we multiply with the same base, we add the exponent, so we get x to the 6th, and then we just have our y squared. Okay. Now 37, 3/4 times 12 is 9, and then we have our x would be to the 8th power. Okay, so 9x to the 8th. Remember, multiplying fractions, you just go straight across, so that would be 36/9, that's how I got 36/4 rather, which is how I got my 9. All right, 38, we're going to take 2 squared x squared. My 3 is going to be squared, and my y is going to be to the 4th power because we multiply. This becomes 4x squared. 3 squared is 9, y to the 4th power. Now I multiply my 4 times 9, and I get 36, x squared, y to the 4th. Okay, whoops. And the final one, we've got 3 times 2 to the 4th, x to the 8th. 3 times 16, x to the 8th. Final answer of 48, x to the 8th. Okay, highly recommend getting 51B done and checking it against the answer key. Bye.